Unlock your English. The power of reading # introduction. Do you find English hard to understand? Maybe you hear it and know what people say, but when you try to talk, your words get mixed up. Or maybe you look at an English book or website and the words just swim before your eyes, making you feel lost. You have tried to get better, but it feels like you are moving very slowly. This is normal and it can make you feel upset. Now, think of a different picture. Imagine you can easily sing along to your favorite songs because you know the words. Think about talking to people from other countries easily, without feeling shy. Imagine you can get lost in a great English story, feeling everything the writer wants you to feel. What if there was one simple, fun thing you could do to make all of this happen? What if this fun thing is something you can do right now in your own home? That one special thing, the one that makes all these good things possible, is very easy: reading in English. This book, Unlock Your English, The Power of Reading, is based on one main idea: reading English. Things like books, news, and blogs often is a simple but strong way to become much better at English. It is not just about liking a story. It is about finding new words, understanding how sentences are made in a natural way, and learning different ways to write without feeling like you are studying hard. We call this English reading improvement. It is more than just reading words. It is a way to take in the English language deeply. Think of it like finding pretty rocks. Every new word you find in a book or story is like finding a special rock. The more you read, the more rocks you have, and the easier it is to say what you want. And it is not just about words. Reading shows you how sentences are built in real life. Instead of learning hard rules, you start to feel what sounds right. It is like learning to build with blocks by seeing many cool things, not just by reading instructions. Every writer, every website has its own way of speaking. By reading different things, you learn these ways naturally. You learn how to sound serious, friendly, excited, or calm. This makes your own talking and writing more interesting. The most important thing is to do it often. Like any skill, practicing a lot turns reading into a strong tool for improving your English. Your brain is wonderful. When you read in English a lot, you help your brain get used to the language. It starts to see how things fit together, learn new words as they are used, and understand how sentences are built without you trying hard. Reading is not like just memorizing words. It shows you how words are used in real sentences, with real feelings and real situations. This helps you remember them better. It is also a relaxed way to learn. You are enjoying a story or learning something new, and your English gets better without the stress of a test. And with every page you finish, you feel more sure of yourself. You show yourself that you can understand and use English. In the next parts of this book, we will go with you on this exciting trip. We will look at what kinds of things you can read, from fun stories to important news. We will share easy ways to read so you learn the most. We will give you ideas to help you when things feel hard. We will show you how to see your progress and keep feeling happy. Our aim is to give you the tools and knowledge to make reading your best friend for learning English. The world of English is waiting for you. Are you ready to find its power one page at a time? Let's start this amazing journey together. Reading in English. Learning a new language is like walking in a big, busy city. Lots of streets, signs, and sounds. It's easy to feel lost at first. But what if there was a simple map to help you find your way? This map helps you understand the city and speak its language. That map is reading. Reading in English helps you get better at reading English. Let me tell you about Maria. Maria wanted to speak English. She knew hello and thank you. She understood simple things. But when she read an English book, it was like a puzzle with missing parts. Words were new. Sentences were confusing. The story was hard to follow. She felt sad. She tried to memorize word lists, but the words felt heavy and hard to use. She thought words were just single things, not part of a living language. Learning was slow and tiring. Her English did not improve much. One day, a friend said, "Just read. Read what you like." Maria was not sure. How could just reading help more than word lists? But she wanted to try. She chose a simple children's story. At first, it was still a little hard. She had to look up some words. But then something great happened. She read about a brave mouse. She saw the word brave. She saw it showed the mouse facing a big cat. She saw it when the mouse helped friends. The word brave felt different. It was not just a meaning. It was an action, a feeling, a character. It was alive on the page. As Maria kept reading, day after day, she saw more. She read about the mouse building a house. She saw sentences like, "The mouse gathered twigs, then carefully wove them together." She learned gathered and wove. She saw how they were used. She saw the order of words. She saw how they made a picture in her mind. She understood that English was not just words. It was a nice, organized way to put words together. This is the main idea of getting better at reading English. See the whole picture, not just small parts. Maria's story shows the magic of reading in English. It is a gentle, natural way to learn. Unlike memorizing words from a list, reading uses words in action. When you read, you see words in their natural places, with other words that explain them. This is called learning words in context. Imagine learning happy. If you just see happy equals feeling good, it's okay. But if you read, the little girl was happy when she saw the puppy, you understand why she is happy. You see the reason. Or if you read, he felt a happy glow spread through him as he watched the sunset. You learn happy can be a feeling that spreads, a warm, nice feeling. This helps the word stay in your mind. You know what it means. You know how it feels and how to use it in real sentences. This makes you understand better and use the word more easily. It's like tasting food instead of just reading its parts. Reading gives you the full taste. Learning words like this, from examples, is very important for getting better at reading English. It's not about memorizing meanings. It's about understanding meaning from real examples. A dictionary gives you one short meaning, but a book can show a word used in many ways, in many situations. You see how a word can be used for people, things, ideas, or actions. You learn its different meanings. This is very strong. When you find a new word, you don't just add it to your memory. You learn a part of the living language. You understand how it connects to other words and ideas. This makes your words better and more useful. You can use them in many talks and writings. Reading also helps your grammar. You might have learned grammar rules like how to make past tense or use a, an, or the. But seeing these rules used correctly, many times, in many sentences, makes them yours. When you read good English, you see how sentences are built. You see how ideas are linked with words like because, so, although, and however. You see how questions are made and how things are described. This helps you feel what sounds right and what sounds wrong, even if you don't know the grammar rule. For example, read these two sentences. 1. The dog, which was brown, chased the ball. 2. The dog chased the ball, which was brown. If you read many sentences like the first one, you learn that which was brown probably describes the dog. If you read many sentences like the second one, you learn it describes the ball. You don't need a teacher to explain the rule. Your brain learns these patterns. This is how you understand sentence structure naturally. You start to make your own sentences that sound good and are correct. This is a key part of improving your English. It's not just knowing rules. It's feeling the language. Reading helps you get that feeling. It trains your mind to know correct and natural English. This makes your writing and speaking better and more correct. It's like learning by being in the place, but with your eyes. Also, the English world is big and different. Different types of reading use English in different ways. News reports use formal language to say facts clearly. For example, a headline might say, "Parliament approves new environmental bill." The words are exact and serious. Then you might read a blog about a mountain trip. This blog might say, "Wow, guys, I just got back from the most amazing hike. The views were totally epic, and I felt so refreshed." See the difference? The blog uses casual words like wow, guys, and epic. It uses exclamation marks for excitement. It sounds like a friend talking. Reading these different styles helps you see that English is not just one thing. It's a tool for many jobs. You learn that a formal email to your boss needs different words than a text to your friend. You see different words, maybe science words in a magazine or slang in a story. This is very useful. It makes your communication skills better. You can say things clearly and in the right way for any situation. This is important for improving your reading in English. It helps you talk well in many real-life situations. You learn not just what to say, but how to say it for different people and reasons. Finally, all of this, new words, understanding sentences, knowing different styles, helps you think faster and better in English. The more you read, the more your brain gets used to understanding English. It's like exercising a muscle. The first time you lift weight, it's hard. But with practice, you get stronger. The more English you read, the faster your brain understands it. You start to know phrases and ideas right away, without thinking about each word. This helps you understand better. You can follow longer stories and harder ideas. Better understanding also helps you speak smoothly. When you speak or write, you don't search for words or struggle to make sentences. Because you've seen many examples, the right words and sentences come easily. It's like having a big collection of ready-made sentences in your mind. You can say your thoughts more smoothly and naturally. This is what many English learners want, to understand English and use it well. Reading is the best and most fun way to do this. It changes what you know into what you can do. It makes your English work for you. So, reading in English is much more than just looking at words. It's an active process that builds your words naturally, helps you understand grammar and sentences, shows you different ways to use English, and makes you more confident and fluent. It's the base for all other English skills. It's the secret to making your English skills grow. Now that we know how good it is to read English, the next step is to learn how to read in the best way. This means choosing the right things to read and having good reading habits. Improving English skills. Learning to speak and write English well can seem hard. Many people think you must sit in classes for a long time and learn many rules. But what if there is a secret way that is fun and works very well? You can do this now anywhere. This secret way is reading. Think about my friend, Maria. When she came to the city, she liked talking to people, but her English was not good. She knew some words, but putting them together was hard. Her sentences were often short and broken, or she used the wrong word, which made people look confused and sometimes made her feel shy. She went to English classes and they helped a little, but she still felt stuck. She could pass tests, but speaking easily in real life? That felt far away. One day, Maria remembered how much she loved stories when she was a child. She found a simple English book she read in school, a book of short fairy tales. At first, it was slow. She had to stop many times to look up words. But she kept going. She read about brave knights and animals that could talk. Then she found a magazine about gardening, her favorite thing to do. Suddenly she was reading about types of soil and how to cut plants. The words were new, but the ideas were interesting to her. She would read a sentence, then read it again to be sure she understood. Slowly, something amazing began to happen. Maria did not just learn new words. She started to feel how English worked. When she read a story, she saw how people talked to each other. She noticed how one sentence followed another, making a smooth flow. When she read the gardening magazine, she saw how experts explained hard ideas clearly. Her English did not just get better, it started to feel natural. The pieces began to fit together. This is the main idea of improving English by reading. Getting better at understanding and using English by making reading a regular habit. It is not just about seeing words. It is about learning new words, understanding how sentences are built, and seeing different ways people write. Let's look closely at how this wonderful change happens through reading. Learning new words the natural way. Imagine your mind is like a garden. When you learn a new word from a list, it's like putting a seed in a pot. It might grow, but it needs a lot of care. Now, when you learn a word by reading, it's like planting that seed in the ground, with other plants around. It gets food from the soil, the meaning of the sentence, the story, the topic. Reading shows you many words, much more than you hear in talking or in class. Think about it. One storybook can have thousands of different words. When you read a sentence like, "The old lighthouse keeper was a solitary man, preferring the company of the gulls to that of people," you see the word solitary. You might not know it, but the rest of the sentence gives you hints. It tells you he was alone, he liked being by himself. You understand the meaning without even looking it up. This is how you learn new words naturally. And it does not end there. The more you read, the more you will see that same word, solitary, used in different ways. You might read about a solitary tree on the hill or a solitary star in the night sky. Each time, the meaning is made clearer by how it is used. Seeing a word many times in different places helps a lot. It helps the word go from just being something you see to something you understand well and, later, can use yourself. You start to feel the small differences between similar words too. You might read alone and solitary and begin to feel that solitary often means being by yourself because you choose to. Maybe feeling calm, while alone can just mean not having others with you, sometimes feeling sad. This deep understanding is what truly makes a word yours, ready for you to use when you speak or write. It is about building a rich, living set of words, not just a list. Understanding how sentences are built and grammar. Do you ever feel like English grammar rules are hard and confusing? Things like when to use past or present verbs, small words like on or at, and the order of words in a sentence can be tricky. Many learners try to remember every single rule, but reading offers an easier path. Think of grammar as the hidden structure that holds a sentence together, like the bones in your body. When you read, you are always seeing this structure working. You see how sentences are made, how ideas are linked, and how the language flows. You might read a sentence like, "If it rains tomorrow, we will postpone the picnic." You see the if-then way of building the sentence and the use of will for something happening in the future. The next day, you might read, "Yesterday, the team won the championship." You see the past tense won. You are not remembering a rule, you are seeing correct ways of building sentences again and again. This is how your brain learns naturally. Children learn their first language this way, by listening and then by reading. They do not study grammar books. They learn the patterns of the language they hear and see. Reading in English does the same for you. You start to have a feeling for what sounds correct and what does not. Your own sentences begin to form more naturally, copying the correct structures you have seen. You will find yourself using the past tense correctly without thinking hard about the rule. You will start to build longer, more complex sentences because you have seen how they are made in the books and articles you read. Look at the difference between reading a simple news report and a longer story. A news report might use shorter, more direct sentences. The president announced new policies today. The policies aim to create jobs. Many people are discussing the changes. This type of reading helps you understand clear, factual sentence building. On the other hand, a story might have longer, more descriptive sentences with extra parts that add details. The old castle, sitting high on the cliff above the rough, gray sea, seemed to tell stories of kings and battles to the wind that blew around its broken walls. Reading this, you see how writers use commas, words like and or, but and descriptive words to create clear pictures and complex ideas. Both types of reading help you, but in different ways. The news report helps you understand direct talking, while the story shows you how to build more detailed tales. By reading different kinds of texts, you gain a deep, natural understanding of English grammar and sentence structure that books alone often cannot give. You learn the rules by seeing them used correctly and well, making your own English more correct and skillful. Understanding different writing styles and feelings. Have you ever noticed how different people talk in different ways? A doctor talking to someone sick will use different words and a different feeling than a friend telling a funny story. The same is true for writing. English has many different styles, and reading is your way to explore them all. When you read, you see many kinds of writing. A newspaper article, for example, usually has a serious and direct feeling. It gives facts clearly and simply. Sentences are often easy to follow. For example, the city council approved the new budget proposal at their meeting last night. This is clear, direct, and professional. Now, think about a blog post about a new video game. The style might be much more relaxed and excited. The writer might use everyday words, ask questions to the reader, and share their own thoughts. You might read something like, "Wow, this new game is so cool. The pictures are amazing and the story? It blew my mind. You guys must try it." This is informal, full of energy, and personal. Then there are stories. A fantasy book will use descriptive words to create magical places and characters, perhaps with longer, more fancy sentences. A mystery book will use words that create suspense and maybe shorter, quicker sentences to build excitement. School papers have their own style, often complex and full of special words. By reading these different kinds of texts, you learn to see and understand these various styles and feelings. This is very helpful for how you communicate. You learn what kind of language is good for different situations. You start to understand the difference between sounding too formal when talking casually or too casual when writing an email for work. You learn how word choice and sentence building create a specific feeling or idea, what we call the tone of the writing. This understanding allows you to change your own English, making you a better communicator in many ways. You can choose the right words and style whether you are writing an email to your boss, chatting with a new friend online, or telling a story to your family. Being able to use different communication styles is a big part of truly knowing a language well. Getting better at understanding and reading smoothly. Imagine trying to run a race if you have never even walked fast before. It would be hard, right? The same is true for language. The more you practice reading, the better you become at understanding English quickly and easily. This is called reading comprehension and fluency. When you first start reading in English, you probably read slowly. You might stop at almost every sentence to think about what it means. This is normal, but as you keep reading regularly, something changes. Your brain gets better at understanding the language. You start to see words and groups of words more quickly. You do not need to stop and think about every single word. Your eyes move faster across the page. This is developing fluency. This faster reading makes your reading comprehension better. When you can read faster and with less effort, you can focus more on understanding the meaning of what you read, not just the separate words. You can follow the ideas, understand the main points the writer is making, and grasp the small details of the story or argument. Remember Maria. At first she had to stop and look up words all the time. But as she read more fairy tales and gardening magazines, she found herself needing to stop less and less. She could read a whole page, then a whole chapter, and understand the main story without getting lost. Being able to understand what you read quickly is the base for all other language skills. Why is this so important? Well, when you understand English better and faster, it helps you in other ways. When you listen to someone speak, you are basically understanding spoken language as it happens. If your reading comprehension is strong, your brain is already used to understanding language quickly and getting the meaning. This makes listening easier. Also, when you write, you need to think about grammar, words, and how to say your ideas. If you had a strong base from reading, you have a better idea of how sentences should be put together and which words to use. Your writing becomes clearer and better because you have seen many good examples. In the end, improving English by reading through regular reading builds a strong base that helps all your efforts to speak, listen, read, and write English better. The more you read, the more fluent and comfortable you become with the language as a whole. So we have seen how reading is a powerful tool for improving words, grammar, and understanding. But to use its power fully, we need to be smart about it. The next step is understanding what to read and how to approach it to get the most benefit. Learning new vocabulary. When I first started learning English, it felt like I had only a few building blocks. I knew simple words like hello and water, but putting them together to say what I truly felt was hard. It was like having a clear picture in my head, but only being able to draw very simple figures. I wanted to talk about my favorite stories, share my dreams, and understand the world better. But how could I do that with so few words? One day, I found a children's book with pictures. The pictures helped a lot, but there were still words I didn't know. I remember one word, sparkle. The book said the stars sparkled in the sky. I didn't know what sparkle meant. I could guess it meant shining brightly, but I wasn't sure. Sometimes I looked words up in a dictionary, but it felt like picking just one flower from a garden. You see the flower, but you miss all the other flowers. You don't see how it grew or what kind of soil it liked. Then I read another book. This one was about a little girl who found a shiny stone. The book said the stone sparkled in the sunlight. Now, I saw sparkle used for stars and for a stone. It was the same word. This made me think that sparkle means shining in a special, bright way. Later, in a story about a princess, her eyes sparkled with excitement. It was still about shining, but this time it was a feeling, a bright look in her eyes. This was different from just looking up sparkle in a dictionary and getting one meaning. Reading showed me that sparkle could be used for things and for feelings. It created a bigger, clearer picture of the word. This is the magic of reading to improve your English. It's not just about seeing words, it's about seeing them live. It's about understanding them not just as a definition, but as a living part of the language. And learning new words is a big part of this. Reading is like a treasure hunt for words, and every new word you find makes your English stronger. # learning new words. Think of your English words like tools in a toolbox. When you start, you might only have a hammer and a screwdriver. You can do some simple jobs, but you can't build much. Reading is like finding new tools for your toolbox all the time. And the best way to find these new tools is by reading. Why is reading so good for learning new words? It's all about context. Think about a word like happy. You know what happy means. But what about joyful, elated, or content? These words are similar, but they are not exactly the same. When you read a story, you don't just see the word elated. You see a character who just won something amazing. The book might say she was elated when she crossed the finish line first. You see that elated is a very strong kind of happy, a happy that comes from a big win. You see it used with winning and crossing a finish line. This helps you understand when and how to use elated yourself. You learn its feeling, its strength, and its situation. This is much better than just looking at a list of words and their meanings. If you just see elated, very happy, you miss important details. You don't know if it's for winning a race or for eating a good cookie. Reading gives you the whole story around the word. It's like learning about a new animal by visiting its home in the wild, not just by looking at a picture of it in a book. You see how it lives, what it eats, and how it acts. Words are the same. They have a home in sentences, and reading shows you that home. This way of learning words is called learning from context. It means learning words by seeing them used in real sentences and real stories. It's the most natural way to learn. When you were a child learning your first language, you didn't use flashcards. You heard words spoken by your parents and friends. You saw them used in books. You learned what they meant because you saw them in action. Reading English does the same thing for you. It puts words into their natural homes, showing you their meaning, their feeling, and how they fit with other words. So, the first big reason reading is great for learning words is this. Context is key. You learn words not just as single items, but as part of a living language. You see how they connect to other words, how they sound, and what kind of feeling they give to a sentence. This makes the words stick in your mind much better. You don't just memorize a meaning, you understand the word. Now, let's think about how often you meet these words. You might read a book today and find a new word. Maybe you understand it because of the context. But will you remember it next week? That's where repetition and reinforcement come in. Reading helps with this too, and it's a very powerful part of improving your English by reading. When you read regularly, you start to see the same words appear again and again. Maybe you read a mystery book and learn the word clue. You see it used many times. The detective looked for a clue. This was an important clue. He found a hidden clue. Each time you see it, your understanding gets a little stronger. It's like a gentle reminder of the word and its meaning. Then, you might pick up a newspaper story about a crime. And there it is again. The police are searching for clues. It's the same word, in a slightly different situation, but the main meaning is the same. This repetition is important. It's not boring, it's strengthening. Each time you see the word, it becomes more familiar. It moves from being a stranger to someone you know a little, and then to a friend you know well. This is a big advantage over flashcards. With flashcards, you usually see a word only once. You might learn its meaning, but you don't get much practice using it or seeing it in different situations. You might see benevolent on a card, learn it means kind, and then forget about it. But in a book, you might see benevolent describing a king, then a teacher, then a kind stranger. You see it used in different ways, which makes it much easier to remember and use yourself. This constant meeting with words through reading builds something wonderful. Your own personal word bank. Think of it like this. Every time you read, you're adding a new coin to your bank. Some coins are small common words, and some are big and shiny less common words or phrases. The more you read, the fuller your bank becomes. This word bank is your vocabulary. A big, rich word bank means you have many choices when you want to speak or write. If you only have a few words, your sentences will be simple. But with a large word bank, you can choose the perfect word to express your idea. You can be more specific, more descriptive, and more interesting. For example, instead of saying the food was good, you could say, the meal was delicious. Or maybe, the flavors were exquisite. Or the dish was delectable. All these words mean good, but they have different shades of meaning. Delicious is a strong, common word for food. Exquisite suggests something very fine and beautiful. Delectable sounds a bit more formal, but very positive. Having these choices in your word bank comes directly from reading widely. You see these different words in different kinds of writing, and they become part of your own language tools. This process of building a word bank through reading is continuous. You don't just finish reading a book and stop learning. Every page you read, every article you scan, adds to your collection. It's a lifelong process, and it's one of the most rewarding parts of improving your English by reading. There's another important reason why reading is so effective for learning words. It helps you understand things that are beyond dictionary meanings. Dictionaries are useful, of course, but they can't always capture the full life of a word or phrase. Think about idioms. These are phrases where the words together have a different meaning than their individual meanings. For example, it's raining cats and dogs. If you look up cats and dogs and raining, you'll be very confused. A dictionary might tell you that raining cats and dogs means raining very heavily. But reading shows you this in action. You might read, I wanted to go for a walk, but it started raining cats and dogs, so I stayed inside. You see the situation, you understand the context, and the meaning of the idiom becomes clear. The same applies to phrasal verbs. These are verbs combined with a small word to create a new meaning. For example, look up. If you just know look and up, it doesn't tell you much. But in reading, you might find sentences like, I need to look up this word in the dictionary. Here, look up means to find information. Or you might read, the price of gas is looking up. Here, looking up means increasing or getting better. Or she looked up when she heard the noise. Here, looked up means to raise your head. These phrasal verbs and idioms are everywhere in spoken and written English. They are often tricky for learners because their meaning isn't obvious from the individual words. But when you read, you encounter them naturally. You see them used in sentences, and you can often figure out their meaning from the surrounding words and the overall story. This makes them much easier to learn and remember than trying to memorize long lists of phrasal verbs. Reading gives you the context, the real-life situation. That makes these tricky parts of English understandable. So, we've talked about how reading helps you learn new words through context, how repetition makes them stick, how it builds your personal word bank, and how it helps with tricky phrases. Now, let's think about how you can actively make the most of this. What are the specific advantages of learning words through reading compared to using flashcards or word apps? The biggest advantage is depth of understanding. Flashcards and apps are great for quick memorization. They can help you learn a word and its basic meaning fast. But reading gives you a much deeper understanding. When you learn a word from reading, you learn its nuance, the small difference in meaning compared to similar words. You learn that happy, joyful, glad, and elated are not quite the same. Connotation, the feeling or idea that a word suggests, beyond its literal meaning. For example, cheap and inexpensive both mean low cost, but cheap can also suggest poor quality, while inexpensive is more neutral. Collocation, which words naturally go together. You learn that we make a mistake, not do a mistake. You learn that we take a shower, not make a shower. Usage, how and when to use the word correctly in different situations. Is it formal or informal? Is it used for people, things, or feelings? Flashcards often give you just one meaning, maybe an example sentence. But reading gives you many example sentences, in many different situations. It shows you the word in its natural place, interacting with other words and ideas. This makes the word feel more real and more useful to you. Another advantage is natural learning. Learning from reading feels less like studying and more like discovering. It's a more enjoyable and less stressful process. When you're lost in a story, you're not focused on memorizing words, you're focused on the plot, the characters, the world. The vocabulary learning happens almost by accident, which makes it more effective and last longer. Apps and flashcards often feel like work. Reading can feel like play, even when you are learning a lot. Finally, reading exposes you to a wider range of words. Books, articles, and websites cover countless topics. You'll find words related to science, history, art, cooking, sports, and everything in between. This broad exposure quickly expands your vocabulary in ways that a focused word app might not. You learn words you might never have thought to look up yourself, but which are important for understanding a wide range of topics. So, while flashcards have their place, reading offers a richer, deeper, and more natural way to build a truly useful vocabulary. It's about understanding words, not just knowing them. This brings us to the second important question. How can a reader actively work with new words encountered during reading? To remember them and understand them better? Simply seeing a word isn't always enough. To really make it stick, you need to be an active part of your own learning. Here are some ways to do that. 1. Keep a notebook or digital list. When you find a word that seems important or interesting, write it down. Don't just write the word. Also write the sentence from the book where you found it. This is crucial for context. Your own guess of the meaning based on the context. The dictionary meaning to check your guess. Maybe a sentence you create yourself using the word. This act of writing it down, in your own words, helps to process the information. It makes the word more personal. 2. Try to use the word. This is perhaps the most powerful step. Once you've learned a new word, try to use it. In conversation, if you're talking to a friend who also speaks English, try to use the word naturally. In writing, write a sentence, a paragraph, or even a short story using your new word. This could be in a journal, an email, or a social media post. Think with the word. Try to use the word in your thoughts. When you see something that fits the word, thank the word to yourself. Using a word is the best test of understanding. It forces you to think about its meaning, its grammar, and its feeling. It moves the word from your passive vocabulary words you understand to your active vocabulary words you can use. 3. Look for the word again. After you've noted down a new word, make an effort to spot it in other books or articles. When you see it again, it's like meeting an old friend. This repetition, especially when you actively look for it, is incredibly effective for memory. 4. Understand word families. Many English words are related. If you learn happy, you can also learn happiness, the state of being happy, happily doing something in a happy way, and unhappy, not happy. When you learn a new root word or a common beginning/ending, you often unlock the meaning of several other words at once. Reading helps you see these word families in action. 5. Visualize the word. Try to create a mental picture for the word. For sparkle, I imagine tiny lights twinkling. For enormous, I imagine something incredibly huge. Sometimes, connecting a word with a strong image can help you remember it. 6. Read aloud. Reading aloud can help you connect with the sound and rhythm of English words. You might notice how a new word feels when you say it. This way of using more of your senses can boost memory. By actively working with new words, you turn reading from a passive activity into an active learning experience. You become an explorer, not just a watcher. The journey of improving your English by reading is a continuous one. Each book you finish, each article you read, adds to your understanding and your ability to express yourself. Learning new words is a huge part of this. It's not just about knowing more words, it's about having a richer, more precise, and more beautiful way to share your thoughts and ideas with the world. By regularly seeing new words in their natural places through reading, we build a strong vocabulary that not only expands our understanding but also helps us express ourselves more clearly and with more style. Having a strong vocabulary is essential for understanding more complex sentences, which we will explore next. Understanding sentence structure. English sentences are like small machines. Each part has a job. When you know how the parts work together, you can understand what the machine means. Reading is your best way to learn how these English sentence machines are built. It's not just knowing words, but seeing how they fit to make meaning. This is important for getting better at reading English. Think about it. Learning a new word is good, but how do you use it? How do you know if it sounds right in a sentence? That's where understanding how sentences are built comes in. It's like learning the names of bricks and then learning how to stack them to build a strong wall. Each sentence is a wall that holds an idea. If the bricks words aren't placed right, the wall might fall, or it might look strange and be hard to understand. The most common way English sentences are built is with a subject, a verb, and sometimes an object. The subject is who or what the sentence is about. The verb is what the subject is doing or being. The object is who or what gets the action of the verb. Let's look at a simple example. The dog barks. Here, the dog is the subject. It's who the sentence is about. Barks is the verb. It's what the dog is doing. This is a complete sentence. It tells us something clear. Now, let's add an object. The dog chases the ball. The dog is still the subject. Chases is the verb. This is an action word. The ball is the object. The ball is what the dog is chasing. The action of chasing happens to the ball. English sentences can also have other parts that add more details. You see these all the time when you read. Adjectives, words that describe the subject or object. For example, the big dog chases the red ball. Big describes the dog and red describes the ball. Adverbs, words that describe the verb, an adjective, or another adverb. They tell us how, when, or where something happens. For example, the big dog chases the red ball quickly. Quickly tells us how the dog chases. Prepositional phrases. These groups of words often tell us where or when something happens, or show a link between things. They usually start with a small word like in, on, at, with, for, or to. For example, the big dog chases the red ball quickly in the park. In the park tells us where the chasing happens. When you read, you see these basic structures again and again. You also see how writers add these extra pieces to make their sentences more interesting and detailed. It's like learning a recipe. You learn the basic parts, subject, verb, object, and then you learn how to add spices, adjectives, adverbs, phrases to make that dish taste better. The most important thing about sentence structure is being clear and making sense. When sentences are built correctly, they are easy to understand. The writer's message comes across clearly. But when the structure is wrong or too hard, it can cause confusion. Imagine a student named Maria. Maria loved reading fantasy books in English. At first, she only focused on understanding the new words. But she often felt lost. She would read a sentence, understand all the words, but still not know what the author meant. One day, Maria tried something different. She picked a sentence from her favorite book that she found confusing. It was, "Through the ancient forest, with a heart full of fear, the brave knight, he walked slowly." Maria thought, "I know forest, fear, night, walked slowly. But this sentence feels mixed up. It's hard to follow. She remembered her English teacher talking about subject-verb-object. She looked for the main action. What was happening? Someone was walking. So, walked is the verb. Who walked? The sentence says the brave knight. So, the brave knight is the subject. But the sentence said, the brave knight, he walked slowly. Maria realized that sometimes writers might say this subject again with a word like he or she to make it stronger, or it could be an older way of writing. The main part was the brave knight walked slowly. Then she looked at the other parts. Through the ancient forest and with a heart full of fear. These are prepositional phrases. They tell us where he walked and how he felt. Maria saw that the author put these phrases at the start of the sentence to create a feeling. But this made the real subject and verb come later, which can be confusing for learners. By breaking the sentence down, Maria understood it. She saw that the author chose to put the describing parts first to build a mood before telling us the main action. This was a big moment for her. She realized that understanding sentence structure wasn't just about grammar rules. It was about understanding what the author chose to do and how it created meaning and feeling. This was a huge step in her getting better at reading English. Reading helps you see these kinds of changes. You start to notice patterns. English has many common sentence patterns. When you read a lot, your brain starts to see them without you thinking. For example, you'll see, I like apples. Subject-verb-object, she is happy. Subject-verb-adjective, they live in a big house. Subject-verb prepositional phrase. Once you see these patterns, your reading becomes faster and easier. You don't have to stop and figure out every single sentence. Your brain can guess what's coming next. It's like driving on a road you know where the turns are and what it looks like. You can focus more on the story or the information, not just on figuring out the words. This ability to see patterns is key to getting better at reading English. The more you read, the more patterns you see, and the better you get at understanding them. But what about sentences that seem much longer and harder? These are often called compound sentences, complex sentences, or compound complex sentences. Reading shows you these and helps you figure them out. Compound sentences. These join two or more simple sentences called independent clauses together, usually with a word like and, but, or. Example: the knight walked slowly, but he was not afraid. Here, two full ideas are joined. Complex sentences. These have one main simple sentence independent clause and one or more smaller sentences dependent clauses that cannot stand alone. Dependent clauses often start with words like when, while, because, if, or although. Example: although the forest was dark, the knight walked slowly. The part although the forest was dark needs the rest of the sentence to make full sense. Compound complex sentences. These mix parts of both compound and complex sentences. They have two or more independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Example: although the forest was dark, the knight walked slowly and he was determined to reach the castle. This sentence has a dependent clause and two independent clauses joined by and. It might seem scary to see sentences like these, but when you read them in their place, you can usually figure out how the ideas are connected. Reading shows you how writers use these longer sentences to explain hard ideas, show why things happen, or describe things happening at the same time. Let's go back to Maria. She started looking for different kinds of sentences. She noticed how writers used because to explain reasons. He walked slowly because he was tired. She saw how although showed a difference. Although he was tired, he kept walking. She learned that reading wasn't just about finding the subject and verb. It was about understanding how the whole sentence worked to create a picture in her mind. How does seeing different sentence structures when reading help someone know if a sentence is made correctly or incorrectly? This is a great question. Reading is like having a teacher who constantly shows you examples of what sounds right in English. When you read thousands of sentences from books, articles, and websites, you are seeing correct English sentence structure used many times. Your brain starts to build a feeling for what sounds natural and correct. For example, if you read I am go to this store many times, it would start to sound a bit wrong to you, even if you didn't know the grammar rule for to be plusing or infinitive. But if you read I'm going to the store or I go to the store thousands of times, those sound normal. If you then see I am go to the store in someone's writing, your feeling, built by all the correct examples you've read, will tell you, wait, that doesn't sound right. It's similar to how babies learn their first language. They hear sentences spoken correctly by their parents and others. They don't get grammar lessons, they just learn the patterns. Reading does the same for your English. You see correct structures so often that incorrect ones start to stand out. You begin to feel when a sentence is clunky or awkward because it doesn't match the many correct examples you've learned through reading. Reading gives you a huge number of correct examples, helping you understand grammar naturally. What are 2-3 common sentence structure traps or confusing patterns that English learners often face, and how can reading help them avoid these? One common trap is the misplaced modifier. This happens when a word or phrase that describes something is placed too far from the word it's supposed to describe, leading to funny or confusing meanings. Example of a trap. I saw a dog on the way to school with a long tail. Does the school have a long tail? Or the person going to school? How reading helps. When you read, you see how describing phrases are usually placed right next to the noun they describe. You'll see sentences like, I saw a dog with a long tail on the way to school. Or on my way to school, I saw a dog that had a long tail. By seeing correct examples, you learn the rule of keeping descriptions close to what they describe. You start to notice when a description seems to be floating strangely in the sentence, because you've seen the correct placement many times. Another trap is run-on sentences or comma splices. This is when two complete sentences are joined together the wrong way, either with no punctuation or just a comma. Example of a trap. The weather was beautiful, we decided to have a picnic. These are two full sentences that should be separated or joined correctly. How reading helps. Good writers know how to join sentences correctly. They use periods, semicolons, or words like and, but, or so with a comma. When you read well-written texts, you see these correct ways of joining ideas. You'll see, the weather was beautiful. We decided to have a picnic. Or, the weather was beautiful, so we decided to have a picnic. Or, the weather was beautiful. We decided to have a picnic. Seeing these correct examples often helps you avoid just sticking two sentences together with only a comma. A third trap can be issues with subject-verb agreement, especially with more complex sentences where the subject and verb are far apart. Example of a trap. The list of books on the shelf are very long. The subject is list, which is one thing, but the verb is used for more than one thing. How reading helps. When you read, you see subjects and verbs connected in many ways. You'll see sentences like, the list of books on the shelf is very long. You'll also see, the books on the shelf are interesting. Reading shows you both single subjects and multiple subjects with their correct verb forms. While you might not consciously think, here is a single subject followed by extra words, your brain is learning the pattern. When you later try to write, you might pause, remembering how you've seen similar sentences, and choose the correct verb form. Reading builds this familiarity. Can you give a simple example of how changing sentence structure can change the emphasis or meaning of a statement, and how reading helps us notice these differences? Let's take a simple idea. John ate the cake. Here's the most basic structure: subject-verb-object. 1. John ate the cake. This is a simple statement. The focus is on John eating the cake. Now, let's change the structure to put emphasis on something else, too. It was John who ate the cake. This structure, using it was who puts a strong focus on John. It might mean someone else was thought to have eaten it, or the speaker wants to make it very clear that John did it. Reading shows you this clef sentence structure, often used for emphasis. 3. The cake was eaten by John. This is a passive voice sentence. The focus shifts from who did the action John to what received the action the cake. This structure is useful when the object is more important, or when we don't know or don't want to say who did the action. For example, if the cake is very special, you might say, the cake was eaten by John to highlight the cake. Reading shows you when writers use passive voice and why, often to make the doer of the action less important. 4. Eating the cake was John. This structure uses the action word eating as the subject. It subtly shifts the focus to the act of eating the cake, and then says John was the one who did it. It's a less common structure but can be used for style. How does reading help you notice these differences? When you read, you see these different sentence structures naturally in stories or articles. You don't just see John ate the cake. You might read, everyone wondered who had taken the last piece. It was John who ate the cake. Here, the focus on John makes sense because of the question before it. Or perhaps, the birthday party was a success. Everyone enjoyed the games, the music, and especially the delicious chocolate dessert. The cake was eaten by John, who had a huge smile on his face. Here, focusing on the cake being eaten might be part of describing the party's success before mentioning John's enjoyment. By seeing these changes used in context, you begin to understand why a writer might choose one structure over another. You learn that sentence structure isn't just about being correct. It's a powerful tool for controlling what is emphasized, the feeling and the flow of information. The more you read, the more you learn to hear these small differences and the more you can use them yourself. Understanding sentence structure changes reading from just figuring out words to understanding complex ideas. It's like finally seeing the whole picture instead of just small pieces. By seeing these patterns, you not only understand English better, but you also start to feel the rhythm and logic of the language. This makes you a more confident reader and, later, a more confident writer. You start to feel the flow of English. This deeper understanding is a main part of getting better at reading English. It builds a strong base for everything else you will learn. Conclusion. You have finished Unlock Your English. The power of reading. We hope you now feel strong and ready to use English with more confidence. We showed you a simple, but very important idea. Reading in English is the best way to become fluent. You worked hard and were brave to start this journey. Now, the real fun starts. You will use what you learned and make your English skills even better. When you read English often, your word knowledge grows a lot. You don't just learn words by heart. Reading shows you words and how they are used. This makes them easy to understand, remember, and use yourself. By reading books, stories, and even things online, you learn to guess what words mean, look up words when you need to, and build a big list of words you know. Reading also teaches you English grammar and how to make sentences. You don't just learn rules, you see them working. You learn how English sentences sound natural, where verbs go, and how different parts of sentences fit together. You saw how short and long sentences in stories and news make sense. By reading, You learn these ways of putting words together, so your own speaking and writing will sound better and more natural. English is a big and varied language. Reading lets you see all its different kinds and how people from different places use it. You can see how people use common sayings, slang, and jokes that are hard to learn in other ways. You saw how writers tell stories, make points, and get readers interested. This not only helps you understand, but also gives you ideas for how you can speak and write better, making you a more skilled and aware English speaker. The most important thing we learned is not just what to read, but how often. Reading becomes powerful when you do it often and enjoy it. Reading regularly helps you remember words and grammar. It makes learning easier. It makes you want to read the next thing. It makes English feel like a natural tool for thinking and talking, not a hard subject. Don't try to read for hours at first. Even reading for 15 to 20 minutes each day makes a big difference. The best way to keep doing something is to like it. Find different kinds of books and topics until you find what makes you excited. Keep a book with you, use a reading app when you travel, or read something during a break. Make it easy to read. Maybe you read one book each month, or a few stories each week. Be happy with your progress. It's okay if some parts are hard. That's usually when you learn the most. This book showed you how and why reading helps your English. Now you have the power. There are so many English books, news stories, and things online to explore. Take the chance to see them. Keep reading what you love, but try new things too. Try a story about the past, a science blog, poems, or even a comic book. Read news from different countries. Explore online groups and websites about your hobbies. Every page you read helps your English, helps you understand the world, and helps you connect with others. Remember, the way to be great at English is often by reading pages. Reading often and enjoying it is your best guide. So, pick up that book, click on that story, and keep going. The more you read, the more you will find, the more you will understand, and the more you will be able to say in English. Thank you for being with us. We hope you do very well and have much fun as you keep making your English skills better, a page at a time.